The fighting was inching ever eastward, but it was slow going. As the first snow began to fall, the Germans were getting desperate to finish this. The nights were freezing cold. The Panzer Division was struggling to keep the engines running, and the morale was dropping rapidly. While pushing forward through our lightly defended countryside, word came from the scouts that there was a small village up ahead. Wary of an ambush, but eager to find some shelter from the cold of the approaching winter, the platoon pushed forward, heading towards the houses. The scenario was the same as the last time, a flanking attack. The Soviet forces started in control of the village, with more reinforcements on the way. The Germans were pushing through the woods, while the armored scout cars had taken up position on the flank. There were 5 objectives this time. 1 in the very center, 1 in the woods on the hill, 1 in the woods closest to the village, 1 in the farmhouse, and 1 in the house by the pond. The Soviets got some additional battle rating from the NKVD detachment, while the Germans lost some because of the dwindling morale caused by the freezing cold. The Germans started in control of 1 objective. Being outscouted, the Soviets had to pull another battle counter. They pulled a mine strike, which they played on the Wolfram. But as it turned out, it was the T-34 that had hit the mine. It was destroyed, forcing the Soviet player to pull another counter. All vehicles counted as unreliable because of the cold, and the Wolframen was targeted again. But it was fine. The Germans took the first turn and had more than enough orders to activate everything. They started by moving the Panzer force up. The forward observers drove up and took position on the hill. Seeing movement in the factory, one of the 231s swung around the woods and fired its autocannon, needing 6s to hit. All missed. The other 231 moved up and fired at another house in the village, with the same result. The turn passed to the Soviets, who rolled 3 orders. A BT-7 drove around the corner, securing an objective, and fired at a 231. The shell hit it straight in the front, and punched through the armor. A sniper climbed a hill on the flank to look for the observers, but couldn't spot them. Our rifle team moved into the church, and the turn was done. The Germans used Panzer March to get 7 units from reserve, and an assortment of panzers rolled onto the field. With 19 orders, everything would get to do something. A Panzer IV moved up to the farm and secured the objective. A Panzer II was tasked with taking out the sniper, but needed 5 to spot it, and 5s to hit. The autocannon roared, taking the spotter out of the fight. But the veteran sniper was not pinned. The Panzers moved towards the village, keeping the woods between themselves and the enemy. The half-track went sniper hunting and spotted its target. It scored a single hit, but that was enough. The Panzers on the other flank converged on the farm. While the forward HQ moved into position to aid the artillery observers. The 231 scanned the church for movement and found a target. It needed 5s to hit. He tried again, but its target was gone. The observers saw lots of movement in the village and radioed the Wolframen. The comms test was good, and so was the deviation. Three direct hits. 4 was needed to destroy the BT-7. Explosions rocked the factory, causing 8 hits on the infantry. 5 were saved by cover, but they were pinned. The second building hit contained the platoon commander. They too saved well. Only the commander himself survived, but his morale held. Because of the cold temperatures, the engine of the lead Panzer IV stalled, and they couldn't get it running again. For the last order, the supply truck started reloading the Wolframen. The Soviets got some reinforcements as well. And they rolled 11 orders. One BT-7 engaged to 231, but needed a 5 to hit. And the others started moving around the wood. A T-34 attempted a long shot at the Panzer II, needing a 6. The shell flew across the battlefield and blew apart the small tank. A BT-7 also tried a long shot, but against the Panzer IV. The shell pinged off the armor, but the crew were pinned. The tanks moved behind the woods after sniping the Panzers, taking the objective. The Soviets then shuffled some infantry between buildings, and their turn was done. More units arrived for the Germans. And they had 16 orders to work with. The loading of the Wolframen continued. The 231 fired back at the BT-7. The first shell flew right past it, but the second found its target. It bounced off, and the crew remained unshaken. The immobilized Panzer went into ambush. A rifle team climbed out of the half-track and took up position in the farmhouse. A Panzer IV moved onto the center objective. Another Panzer went into ambush, preparing for a Soviet push. And more Panzers and infantry moved up to support it and prepare for their own push. Panzer III took up position on the farm, while the relay team joined the artillery. A single anti-tank gun was brought on, and they got only 5 orders. The BT-7 snuck around the wood and fired at the 231 from behind, but missed completely. The other BT-7 opened fire on the same target, looking for 3s to hit. He scored a solid hit and needed 7 or more to destroy it. The AT gun was unlimbered and the truck went back to base. The gun then opened fire on the Panzer IV by the objective. It had no trouble spotting it, but needed a 5 to hit. The second shot went wide. The T-34 moved into the woods and fired at the pinned Panzer IV. It spotted it and just managed to hit. The shell pinged off and the morale was good, but they did not go beyond the call of duty. Another Panzer II arrived. The Germans got 14 orders and started by loading the Wolframen again. The Panzer IV went into the woods to meet the T-34. It spotted the tank and needed 5 to hit. The shell punched through the front armor and killed the crew. The effort was too much for the Panzer's engine, which died, leaving the vehicle immobilized. The newly arrived Panzer II moved forwards and fired at the AT gun, but needed 6s to hit at that range. A half-track moved into the woods as well. Infantry poured out and the MG team laid down some suppressive fire on the AT gun. It was not effective, but they followed up with direct fire. 2 crewmen were struck and killed, but it didn't shake the survivors. The rifle team also opened fire. They killed 1 man, and the rest were pinned. And another man went down. The forward HQ also went into ambush. A Panzer II moved through the trees to get into a better position. The Germans just pushed their tanks and transports forward to get ready for a big push. More Soviet troops arrived. And they got 12 orders. The infantry in the house took aim at the rifle squad in the wood, but needed 3 to spot them. Infantry was sent to occupy the church, and the BT-7 swung around to engage the moving Panzer III, but did not find a clear shot. The killer BT-7 joined its companion in its flanking maneuver, while the other opened fire on the immobilized Panzer in the woods. It spotted it, but missed. Shot number 2 struck it squarely in the side, needing 8 to knock it out. The second AT gun was deployed and the truck drove off. The gun immediately opened fire on a visible Hanomag. It spotted it and needed 6 to hit. The shell bounced off the front, but the crew kept their cool. The gun crew loaded another shell and found their target, but it flew right past. A BT-7 drove into the wood to hunt a Panzer II. The target was spotted, but the shot hit nothing but trees. Another T-34 came rolling out from between the buildings. It fired at the Panzer III, but hit nothing. The last of the German reinforcements arrived, and 16 orders were rolled. The spotter called up the Wolframen. A spot round was placed in the village again, and deviated very little. One direct hit and 4 indirect. The infantry in the house took 6 hits. 2 were saved by cover. With half of them gone, the rest decided to run away. The infantry in the church would be pinned on a 2-up, and the tank on a 4-up. The flanking Panzer IV opened fire on the BT-7. It spotted it and needed a 5 to hit. And 7 was needed to knock it out. The Panzer III hid behind a hill and fired back at the BT-7, looking for a 6. The shot bounced off, but the crew was pinned. The rifle squad opened fire on the AT again. They spotted it, but missed completely. They fired again, scoring 3 hits. 2 were lethal, and the crew was all gone. A Panzer II took aim and opened fire at the other AT gun. It needed 6s to hit. 2 crewmen went down, and the rest were pinned. The autocannon roared again, and another 3 men went down. And the rest ran for their lives. Another Panzer II took aim at the church, but needed a 4 to spot the infantry. The MG team poured fire into the church before taking cover in the woods. Two hits were scored, but 1 were saved by cover. The fresh Hanomag moved full speed towards the fighting, accompanied by a Panzer III. The infantry in the farmhouse also engaged the church, but did not have a clear target. A half-track picked up the infantry and relocated to the other woods. The Soviets would get a lot of reinforcements this turn. Infantry poured onto the field of battle to hold back the German armored advance. And they had 12 orders. The T-34 turned to attack a transport. It was spotted, hit, and blown apart. Infantry poured out, but 3 men lost their lives. One of the BT-7s moved up and took aim at the back of the other transport. It managed to spot it and hit it. The back half of the Hanomag was blown open, sending the passengers tumbling. Two riflemen did not make it. The infantry in the church opened fire on the nearest squad. They spotted them once and hit once. The cover did nothing, but their morale held. Another squad took aim, but with their number reduced, a 5 was needed to spot. More infantry was brought forward to engage. And some infantry was sent to hold the objective, but couldn't quite reach the house. The NKVD detachment drove up to support infantry defending the church. The other BT-7 moved into the woods to get a good firing position. And the Soviets ended by removing their pins. The Germans looked to the skies, but they were empty. But they did get 13 orders. A Panzer III rolled over the hill and engaged the enemy point blank. Needing a 4 to hit, but the shell just grazed the tank, forcing a morale test, which they passed. The forward commander swung around the farmhouse to fire past the woods. The target was obscured, but still spotted. But the shot missed. The Panzer II opened fire on the enemy infantry, firing at 2 different squads. The first squad was well hidden, but the other was in the open. 2 hits and 2 dead soldiers. The rest were pinned. Another Panzer II worked its way around the other side of the woods. Followed by a Panzer IV. While a Panzer III turned to fire at the T-34. And missed. The half-track inched forward to spray the church with its MG, but couldn't spot the target. The command squad jumped out in the woods to help with the Soviet infantry. They immediately opened fire on the nearest target. They started with area fire, which was ineffective. They then failed to spot the target. The Germans then ended their turn by removing some pins. Still, the Soviets kept on coming. And they had 9 orders. The infantry in the church opened fire on the nearest squad in the wood, but they had trouble spotting them. The Maxim team entered the building and fired the same squad. But they were well hidden. The unpinned infantry joined their friends in the church and added their fire to theirs. But still the Germans remained hidden. The NKVD detachment also moved into the church and opened fire on the 2 pinned rifle squads. The closest squad was still out of sight, but they spotted the larger squad. They scored 5 hits, and every single man was cut down. The BT-7 swung its turret around and launched a shell straight through the turret of the Panzer III. While the other BT-7 went into ambush. The third BT-7 used area fire with its MG on the small team in the wood, needing a 4. It then moved into the village and hid. The platoon commander yelled "Ura Ura" and infantry poured into the village. "12 orders for the Germans. The Panzer II moved forward to fire at the pinned infantry, but failed to spot them. The MG team then opened fire on the same unit. They spotted them and needed force to hit. They did not spot them a second time. The command squad also engaged infantry. They scored 2 hits and 2 men went down. The rest stayed in the fight. And Panzer II fired across the field at the infantry as well. It spotted them, but needed 6s to hit. It retained its target, but still no hits. The infantry in the house opened fire on the church, trying to pick out the NKVD detachment. They spotted them and needed 5s to hit. They spotted them again and scored 2 hits. 1 man went down, but the rest went beyond the call of duty. They fired at the reduced squad in the wood again. They failed to spot at first, but finally found them. 5 hits were scored, and again every single man was cut down. The Panzer II in the wood opened fire on the BT-7 lying in ambush. It failed to spot it, and the BT-7 seized the opportunity to fire first. But it failed to spot the small panzer. The Panzer II tried again, but still couldn't spot the tank. A Panzer IV moved up the hill and fired on the closest target. It needed a 3 to hit. The Germans needed to make a gamble and sent the commander into the fight. He hit the BT-7 and scored a glancing hit. The shot shook the crew and they decided to bail out. The last half-track in the woods moved up to fire at the enemy, but couldn't spot them. The Panzer III also moved up, taking aim at the officer in a jeep. It had a clear shot and a perfect hit. The car was blown to pieces. Only 1 passenger died, leaving 2 left in the command squad. The half-track once again fired on the church, trying to take out the dangerous NKVD detachment, but could not spot them. 13 orders. The NKVD detachment opened fire on the MG team in the woods. They started with area fire, pinning the team, but could not spot them for direct fire. The infantry in the house opened fire on the German command squad, leading with area fire, needing 5 to pin and 3 to spot. The fresh rifle squad in the church then opened fire on the MG team. They had to look hard, but finally found the target. 4s were needed to hit, so 5 went through. Only 2 were saved, so another squad was gone. The other rifle squad opened fire on the remaining MG team, but needed 5s to spot the small obscured squad. The BT-7 fired on the commander's Panzer III. The shot hit, but bounced off. The second shot whizzed straight past. The T-34 inched forward and took aim at the same panzer, needing a 6. The light mortar team moved into the house and fired out the window at the Hanemag. They spotted it, but missed completely. The Maxim in the same house aimed at the MG team, but couldn't spot them. The BT-7 in the village joined in the hunt for the German commander, needing a 6 to hit. The shell punched straight through the turret, killing the commander. The panzer on the hill needed a 3 up to get an order. The Soviets then just moved the infantry into the buildings to secure the village, and they were done. With a couple of officers gone, the Germans got 14 orders. The Panzer IV opened fire on the BT-7. It spotted it and just missed the obscured tank. It spotted again and finally hit. The shell punched through the armor, destroying the target. The Panzer II then turned its autocannon on the T-34, needing a 4 to hit, but 11 to destroy it. The other Panzer II could see the BT-7 and took aim, looking for a 6, and 10 up to destroy. Rifle team in the house fired on the NKVD detachment again. The first round of shooting hit nothing but church wall. The second round got a hit, and 1 man went down. The rest were pinned. The half-track followed suit but couldn't spot a thing. The command squad fired at the infantry in the open again. They spotted them and got 2 hits. 2 more died, and the rest ran away. The half-track by the church fired at the reduced rifle squad. It spotted and scored 1 hit. One man went down, but their morale was good. And then scored another hit, but they were saved by cover. The Panzer IV inched forward to get a clear shot on the church, but it couldn't spot any targets. The Panzer II did the same, with the same result. The Soviets got only 6 orders. The rifle squad in the church opened fire on the command squad. They started with area fire, pinning them, but the Germans kept their heads down, preventing direct fire. The other rifle squad fired on the MG team. They failed to spot, but eventually found a target. They scored 4 hits, wiping out the rest of the team. With most of their infantry gone, the Germans pulled back, leaving the village to the Red Army.